Good afternoon, sifters. It is the week of February 17th, 2026. I'm Tyler Shervin with my co-host CJ Gettelfinger. And you might be noticing CJ's just finishing up his first week or so in Tampa. Yeah, I don't know, CJ. It seems like you got a glow. We don't really get that up here in the Great Lakes region. What's going on with that?
Tyler, man, that UV at 7 every single day in February, that'll help get you there. So went to the beach a little bit this weekend. Had to get the tan going on.
That is a dream. And hey, you were mentioning you've been getting your tan on while looking out for some houses.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We had a good long 3-day weekend this weekend. Kira and I, we went and toured. We saw 7 different houses this weekend. We had a
Hey,
we had a good time. There's a couple, kind of leading in contention, but surprisingly to me, very different than the rest of the country is, I know the market started to slow a little bit, but
yep.
Tampa and St. Petersburg has been slow for a while, obviously post Helene and all the flooding and things of that nature. But actually, the house that we like the most has been on the market for nearly a year and a half, which honestly I've never seen. I've never seen
Wild.
something like that before. It's just sitting. So it's interesting.
Who knows? I mean, maybe that's a sign that shifting now to a buyer's buyer's market. Well,
Absolutely.
and then you guys had a great Valentine's.
Oh yeah, great Valentine's. Went out to dinner, had a real nice dinner, Park Shore Grill, got some shrimp and steak. So really living the Tampa lifestyle up to its fullest for sure.
The best of the best. Hey, you guys aren't like swimming from restaurant to restaurant. I see some fellows out there doing that.
No, no swimming. Maybe some running. But
There you
hey, I
go.
got one for you. I saw you actually made the trip across the border this weekend as well.
I did. So for all you folks, right? Like, I mean, Toronto is shoot, it's only like an hour and a half away from Buffalo. So heck, you got to get out when you can there. And I love seeing some big fish. Go to the aquarium, Ripley's Aquarium, out in Toronto. Get a nice bite to eat. Really good time. Really good time. Me personally, I don't really mind the cold that much. As long as there's some snow on the ground. It's a problem when it's like 30, 40 degrees and it's just raining and there's just no vegetation. But when you have snow on the ground, you'd be shocked. It makes all the difference. You look outside, it looks wonderful, and then heck, you go to Toronto, and it's a gorgeous city. I highly recommend anybody to visit. But yeah, that kind of brings up the next thing, right? With the Winter Olympics, right? And CJ, you were mentioning something about like the medal count. Like I think
Yeah,
Denmark is in the lead right now.
they are. Norway is leading it, 26 total medals, 12 of those gold. So they're definitely cooking pretty good down those slopes, it seems like. Italy's actually in second. That was kind of surprising to me, but
Hmm.
home country, they're doing well. That is right, right? That is where the Olympics are at, correct?
Yes, yes, yep. Out in Italy, I've been seeing some highlights of the Italian hockey team. They're getting out there. The French hockey team. You see some different ones, but like
Yep.
I said, I'm
US
way down the
is
wire.
coming strong. We're in third. We're in third with 17. I actually was watching the mono sled. You seen that one, the mono bob or whatever they call it, where they they,
There's
they
been a
sled
fellow.
down.
There's been a fellow that's been sending me some highlights about those mono sleds.
Hey, did
It's
you see the lady? She tied now. So last night she won a medal. She tied for the most Winter Olympic medals for a female for U.S. history. She's got
wow,
6 now. But at age 40, she got her first gold medal last night. Is that not
wow.
crazy?
Well,
At
I
age
love that.
40.
That just kind of shows you right. Keep that persistence up. Keep it going. Don't constantly compare yourself to like whatever somebody's doing at 21 or 25 years old.
Yeah,
Just keep going. That's absolute
that's
perseverance
incredible.
there.
That is absolutely incredible. Well, hey, Tyler, speaking
Yep.
of medal counts, let's know how those gold indexes and those trackers are doing for us. Let's see how much those medals are actually worth.
Yes, yes, sir. So on to the indexes. S&P 500 are not doing quite as well as Team USA. We're seeing a market close last Friday, February 13th, is down 0.21%. And interestingly enough, the Bloomberg US Aggregate Bond Index is outperforming so far this year to date versus the S&P 500, up 1.28%. Reason for that is we've been seeing the rotation out of large cap US and more into the broader market, smaller mid cap companies, other sectors outside of tech and finance. But what is pushing that bond market to do very well is there's certainty for who's going to be the head of the Federal Reserve with Kevin Warsh. And then as well, we got a positive trend with the latest inflation numbers that came in. So core inflation came in at year over year at 2.5%, and then month over month at 0.3%. And then we also see the CPI index inflation, which includes everything. The core inflation cuts out housing, energy, more of the sensitive areas. That's up year over year at 2.4% and month over month at 0.2%. So with those numbers declining, and then as well with the certainty at the Federal Reserve head, that is offering a lot more certainty with the bond markets going forward. And as well, not as many updates with gold. It's kind of a good news oftentimes with the markets or the bond markets when we don't get a new all-time high with gold, but we definitely want to see some more all-time highs with golds for Team USA for sure. 100%. But CJ, I hear we got a stock of the week. Is that a big thing on the
Yeah,
docket?
so this is a good one. So for those listeners who caught our episode last week, you may remember Lucas and I were kind of discussing that there's a new king in the annual revenue space, and that was Amazon. So
Yep.
Amazon surpassed 716 billion in annual sales in 2025 after their earnings. Well, today we want to focus on the company that held that long time revenue spot for the last 13 years running, Walmart. So Walmart announces earnings before opening bell on Thursday. And before we kind of get into the fundamentals and what to look out for on that upcoming earnings call, Tyler, I've got a question for you.
I'm
So
ready.
if you didn't already know, Walmart is actually the largest employer in the US. Makes
Yes, sir.
sense, if you
Yeah.
think about it. How many people do they employ in the US?
Shoot. I'm gonna go with about somewhere in the range of 700,000 to a million.
Okay, not bad, not bad, but double it, pretty much spot on double it. So
Oh,
they're at
2 mil?
1.6 million,
Oh, okay,
1.6
1.6.
million. Yeah,
1.6.
so I was kind of doing the math on it though. This is pretty interesting stat I was thinking about. So current US census, right? Latest US census, there's about 340 million people living in America.
Yep.
So if you do the stats on that, that's about one out of every 200 people works at Walmart, which is kind of crazy when you kind of think about it and put it into perspective like that. But I just thought that was a funny little stat. I mean, that's a lot of people. But
Yep.
kind of switching gears, right? Getting into more of the nitty gritty and some of those fundamentals within Walmart. Walmart has a very wide moat. They have a wide moat in an extremely difficult industry to attain such status, actually. And a lot of that is due to what we all know and love them for, that being the cost advantages, right? So they really were the first to hunker down on the buying in bulk, and it's brought them to where they're at today. That moat has really helped for tightening pockets, right? It's really helped in the environment that we've been in where the consumer's kind of feeling a little
Mhm.
bit of pressure, maybe looking for cheaper products, cheaper items elsewhere. But also, Walmart has been able to master what so many consumer staple companies strive to do, but have just not been able to attain. And that is capitalizing on discretionary spending. So when you think of Walmart, they're definitely going to be your consumer staple company. For the most part, they're going to be the grocery store. That's really what they've focused on, especially them, Sam's Club. You're thinking your groceries. Additionally, a few knickknacks here and there that you may need to go pick up. But as Lucas and I were talking about a few weeks ago on the podcast, they've mastered that discretionary spending. You go in there, right, with your list of grocery list, milk, egg, bread, all of a sudden you're coming
Yep.
home with a new pair of jeans and whatever else that you found laying around on the shelves, right? They've really been able to take advantage of getting you in there looking for staple products, leaving the store, spending a little bit more than you had thought, and coming home with a few more items that you didn't necessarily
There's
think you
nothing like
needed.
Walmart fashion, right, CJ?
No, there's nothing, man. Some Wrangler jeans. Come on. I mean,
Heck yeah.
Wrangler jeans, a pair of
Heck yeah, baby.
Reebok shoes, and a little t-shirt that says like beer in one hand, beer in the
Yeah.
other. Something like that, That's exactly what you need.
Yes.
And so they've really been able to do that very, very well. And additionally, something else we kind of want to add when you look at Walmart, as any long-term consumer staple investor knows, you've got to love private label, right? Whatever store you shop at, private label means the same thing wherever you're shopping. It means higher margin. And Walmart has really been able to succeed at that very, very well because they're a company that, like we said, you're going to shop there because you're looking for a better price. and all of a sudden they have your normal products that you're looking for. Let's take, your cereal. We're going to go look for Frosted Flakes
I
or
love my
Fruit
cereal.
Loops, right? And then all of a sudden, a little off-brand Walmart, it's $1.50 cheaper, and you're going straight for it. Well, those private labels really help with those high margins. So that's something that Walmart has also really been able to dominate. The last thing that they just dominate as a total is that market share. So they actually attain about 21% total grocery market share. Not quite there, but it does almost triple the
Yep.
highest competition, that being Kroger and both Costco as well. So they've really got a good grasp and a firm hold on the market share. Now, as we kind of transition into looking at a few other things, the last thing I want to talk about is over the recent years, they have been really able to successfully grow that market share as those price sensitive customers have navigated the recent high inflation environment. So, Tyler, right, kind of the $1 trillion question is, can they continue, and are they actually worth $1 trillion? So, Walmart just recently surpassed $1 trillion market cap, which we had talked about a few weeks back when that happened. But
And more
are
and more of a
they,
thing.
is it sustainable, right? Is it
Hmm.
sustainable? So, what to kind of keep your eyes on as we shift into those earnings on Thursday? Well, it's simple. I got four things for your listeners to kind of keep your eyes on. First, total revenue. Revenue and revenue growth is what we need from Walmart to provide for an investor. Will they leapfrog Amazon again? They'd been the leader, like I said, for 13 years running. They just got passed a few weeks ago. Will they repass Amazon and post new record high revenue for 2025? That'd be the first thing to look out for. Secondly, same store sales growth. If you're going to be in the grocery sector, you want to have that same store sales growth, right? That means that you're stealing market share, that you're getting more and more clients, more and more customers coming in, and also, there may be a little bit of that price inflation that goes into it. But same store sales growth is really, really huge in this sector. So definitely keep your eyes out there. Third, margin and cost control. So as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, it's one of the tightest margin industries there is, but Walmart has always been able to maintain high margins and kind of differentiate themselves from the competition. So just look to make sure that there's no margin pressure. Like I said, as inflation has stuck its head out, as wage pressure has continued, as supply chain headwinds kind of loom, keep your eyes out to make sure that the margins are staying in line and that cost control is where Walmart wants it. To finish it off, fourth but not least, is the future outlook.
Mhm.
So keep in mind predictions for above, right? The three things that we just mentioned: revenue, same store sales growth, margin. Keep those future outlooks and predictions in mind, but also what do capital expenditures, dividends, share repurchases, what do those plans look like? As we know, as we've been talking the past few weeks, market's a little bit scared about capital expenditures. So just kind of keep that in your hindsight. So Tyler, like I said, to summarize, four things to look out for those Walmart earnings on Thursday: total revenue and revenue growth, same store sales growth, margin cost controls, and just that future outlook. What do those capital expenditures potentially look like?
Well, I'll certainly be keeping my eye on the peel for that earnings call coming this Thursday before the bell, February 19th. One question I have for you, CJ, though,
Yep.
regarding one of your top things to look out for in this upcoming earnings call here. Do you think that Walmart has a chance to leapfrog Amazon? I mean, do you think there's an opportunity
Yeah,
there?
I
How
do.
do you
They're
think that can
they're not
happen?
trailing by much. They're not trailing by much. They were just shy of my last number, I believe, is around 690 billion. If I'm correct there, it could be off, but they're not too far back. They would just need about 2 or 3% growth. So I think that
Okay.
they could totally do it. I think it's attainable, and I honestly wouldn't be terribly surprised to see it. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a great question. I think that they will. I think that they'll re-leapfrog and kind of take that crown back over.
And do you think, like, with all of their resources and experience, like they've been around obviously much longer than Amazon. They've been around since the 60s. Amazon's been around since the 90s. Do you think that the Walmart could potentially have an Amazon Web Services, or have they just developed
Yeah,
the business in a different way?
they've been growing it for sure. They have. They've been doing a really good job there. I don't quite think that I don't quite think they will, because I don't know that that's really where management wants it to go. I think that they may understand, Amazon has such a different grasp and just control on it
Yep.
that they may not want to expend all their capital into that. Now, that's my personal opinion. It could change. Management could look at it differently. They have been successful in growing that area in industry, but Personally, I don't quite think that they'll catch Amazon. I think Amazon's just slightly in a different league, kind of one of their own.
I would be in agreement with that for sure. Well, thanks for answering all those, and folks, be on the lookout for this Thursday Walmart earnings, and we'll definitely recap a lot of the things we're looking out for next week. Now, next up, we've been following this for a minute here. We got the 1 week hall pass. So Netflix currently engaged to Warner Brothers Discovery. I know we had a recent wedding on the Sift stack, and it looks like might be in the process of seeing a wedding between Netflix and Warner Brothers. But in this kind of relationship here, Netflix gave Warner Brothers a 7-day waiver, the hall pass, to go on a date with Paramount. And this gives a 1 week window for Paramount to show that their cash is better than Netflix's stock. And obviously, this is Netflix showing a lot of confidence in this situation. Paramount has been offering $30 per share, but they're offering some hints, little sprinkles of hints here and there that they go up to potentially $31 if Warner Brothers takes them seriously. So a lot of pressure on this 1 week hall pass. Netflix, though, ain't impressed, and they're calling the whole thing just a series of antics designed to distract the shareholders. But further out in the lookout, neither deal is really a total slam dunk. Regulators, as we talked about earlier, are worried about Netflix becoming overpowered with a streaming monopoly. Paramount's deal is also under fire a bit by having some outside investment from sovereign wealth funds. But we're set to see come March 20th, when these Warner Brothers shareholders hold a special meeting to vote on their future. And again, would love to know, CJ, what is your perspective on this going forward with this
Well, Tyler,
merger
I,
that's been
I
in the works
definitely
forever?
I, I love the way that you framed that. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of nice. It is like a marriage, and it's like, hey, right before we get to the altar, anyone object to this? Where it is right now, I mean, you're seeing shares of Warner Brother today up about 3%. So there definitely is a little bit of potential there that the market's saying, if this goes through, like you just said, raising that offering price to $31 a share, right? So there is definitely a little bit of arbitrage, a little bit of spread there if that goes through, where some investors are trying to take advantage of that today, it looks like. So there may be a little bit of hope there for certain people thinking that it could go through, but I'm gonna stay on the side of Netflix. I think that Netflix is gonna be able to own this deal and handle it, and I do think that it will come to fruition. Again, like we said the whole time, who knows when, but my money's on Netflix.
Yep. So, folks, keep your eyes tuned on that for March 20th. We'll, of course, keep peeking at it. Now, running on to the Anheuser-Busch earnings call that occurred last week, last Thursday. We got takeaways actually from what CJ had covered. So, the stock price for Anheuser-Busch is down about 1% since that earnings call, but it's up almost 25% year to date. And this is as of the afternoon, February 17th, 2026. So you can't really put all your stock into what the stock price is doing after the earnings call. And again, we see that the long-term trend is still very much on the upward. So first off is the Steady Sipper Award. So Anheuser-Busch is like that one friend who always shows up on time and never misses a beat, but isn't exactly looking to start a mosh pit, not looking to get too violent here. They consistently beat earnings expectations. Shout out to that 95 cents earnings per share, but their actual revenue and income are just basically just chilling on a lounge chair here. So what was the vibe? The revenue was technically down 0.8% on a reported basis, 59.3 billion in total, almost 60. So proving that while they are quite efficient, they aren't exactly in that growth spurt phase that we see in the more sexy tech sector, right? The big thing that CJ was noting last week was their debt. So we are seeing an $80 billion weight loss journey for the Anheuser-Busch. So stock price Bud is they're officially making it work. Their net debt to EBITDA ratio just dropped to 2.87 times. First time that it's been under the 3 times mark since 2015. So over a decade. So the company is starting to see their toes again, getting more healthy in those areas. You know, Really want to know, CJ, this seems like a company you follow pretty closely here. Were you
Hey,
feeling
man,
pretty
I
good
mean,
about those earnings?
I could listen to you describe these post earnings all day. I mean, you're like painting a color commentary picture. That was amazing, man. I love that. No, what I would say is, I mean, the earnings did not disappoint. If you recall, last week we had reviewed them Monday. That would have been the 9th of February. They were up 19% year to date. So, last week, another 6% growth going into those earnings, like you said, kind of been flat post earnings, but they grew quite a bit last week as well. So, 25% year to date return. Earnings per share beats, like we said, they're not necessarily growing the revenue, right? It's kind of flat.
Yep.
Very, very, very mature company, but they're getting efficient. They're being efficient, and they're doing really good there. So all in all, I think that was a pretty good performance report, pretty good earnings report, kind of in line with what you would expect to see overall.
No Ozempic needed for
Nope. No,
Anheuser-Busch.
no, they're just, doing it all natural, going for runs, going to the gym. That's what they're doing.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we want to know from you folks, sifters, who do you think will have the highest revenue 5 years from now? First answer is Walmart. Second answer is Amazon. Third answer, Saudi Aramco. Fourth answer, Apple. I'm going to go with this is a tricky one. I'm in between Amazon and Saudi Aramco, but especially that is kind of tough now that I'm kneeling down on it. Um,
That is a
all
good
right, I'm
question.
gonna have my
I
home
like
home.
how you threw them in there.
I'm gonna have my home country bias. I'm gonna go with Amazon here.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
like that you threw Saudi because I was gonna say if it was, if you had flip-flopped them with like Nvidia or something like that, like this would have been a no-brainer.
yeah.
I still am thinking that I'm confident in this one. I'm going Amazon as
Okay.
well. It will be. I do think that's definitely the best comparison, but I'm going Amazon for sure.
My only hesitancy is I think the energy sector is gonna perform. I think they're gonna have some pretty good reasonable performance over
Yeah,
the next 5 or 10 years, more so than they had over the previous decade or 15 years. That's what added to my hesitancy a little bit there. But overall, I think Amazon is just so well diversified in so many spaces, and again, that not only with just what people need to live, but
yeah,
also what big technology, big finance companies, big energy sector companies need with AWS. So it's Amazon Web Services. So I have to go with Amazon. But last week's poll results. What was your favorite Anheuser-Busch? And we had a tie. Bud Light at 31% and Michelob Ultra at 31%. So CJ, you and I tied out here. I do know now. There was a person that voted I'm sober that I know that was not the right choice for them. So they could have definitely been the tiebreaker here. But even I'm sober tied with Budweiser.
man,
Um,
people are hating on Budweiser.
yeah.
I'd rather
Uh,
just not drink than drink Budweiser.
I gotta say I'm not really a huge Anheuser-Busch. I haven't really drinking it that much. Often, I have gone with the Bud Light. Um, Now the other thing that we wanted to note here, right? The NBA All-Star game happened, and CJ, I heard there was an All-Star MVP, right? That you
Man,
may be a little bit familiar with.
absolutely, it's just crazy to think about. Back in the day, shout out to Anthony Edwards, the Atlanta Express. Back in the day, I actually played with Anthony Edwards junior year on the Under Armour circuit, and it is just crazy to think that my ex-teammate is the NBA All-Star Game MVP. Just absolutely crazy to think about. He was out there cooking. I knew he would, going to work. He said it in his interview. He's like, I'm just every chance I can, I'm gonna go smoke and I'm gonna go cook LeBron and KD, and that's exactly what he did.
It's just mind blowing. But I mean, heck, if you were playing at that level, CJ, I mean, shoot, I mean, we could have had you out there in that All Star game. We could have,
Yeah,
you know,
probably. I would. Hey, I would have me and Kawhi, me and Kawhi, we'd have been going head for head. I
Kawhi,
don't know if you
Kawhi,
watched it. Yeah, I don't know if you watched it.
Toronto,
Tyler Kawhi
Toronto. He's a
he had
Toronto
30.
Raptors guy, yeah.
He had like 30 points in a row or something. He was going crazy
So
too.
I didn't watch the All Star game, but I was catching the highlights, and just some of the crazy stuff I saw on social media over the weekend. I was like, I can't say it on this podcast. I'm like, I don't even know if it was real, like some of the stuff. But like, granted, the any sort of All Star game, like the NFL Pro Bowl, like is not even watchable. Like, what is
Yeah,
going on with
I know,
the
man.
NFL Pro
The
Bowl?
I will say that the way they broke it up this year, I enjoyed. There was 4 games, basically 4 quarters.
Yep.
1, 2, and 3 were great. They were really, really good down in the wire. 4th one was terrible. I mean, you literally had the vets, 40-year-old players playing against 20-year-old players in the first 8 minutes. The vets were like 0 for 15, looked like they were still trying to get loose. It was brutal. And then let's not even talk about the dunk contest. I think the dunk contest died this year.
Yeah, what happened
That
with
may
that?
be
Because
all
I
she wrote.
saw some highlights on that, yeah, and I was like,
That may be all she
"This
wrote, man.
looks," I saw guys do better dunks back in high school and middle school.
Yeah,
Honest
they're
to
just
God.
they're running out. Too many egos. People don't want to go into the dunk contest and flop. So I mean, you're getting a lot of no
Oh,
names,
I
and
see.
it's
You get a
just
lot of people that are nervous about making a mistake.
yeah, it is what it is.
One last thing I wanted to go over though, just Lucas had a very controversial take on the Super Bowl MVP, and we had a lot of comments. And I wanted to know, CJ, what your take was on this. So Lucas, as we all know, he picked the kicker to be the Super Bowl MVP, and so here's a couple of them. Podcast equipment needs to be more expensive. All of his kicks were over 90% expected to make. Walker had one of the best running Super Bowls ever. Easy. It should have been Walker. Kicker made 5 easy field goals, set up largely by, wait for it, Walker. Not a single one of those kicks were over 45 yards, though. None of those were considered difficult kicks. The punter
Hey,
is more.
this is all I have to say to anybody
Let's
out
hear it.
there hating. This is
No.
what I have to say. The pressure of the Super Bowl to go out there and drain those kicks, like, come on. There's no way. That I stand with Lucas on that. I'm giving that to the kicker. I mean, he was perfect, flawless on the night. I don't care if you were the best high school kicker or
Oh,
college kicker or
oh,
wherever,
oh.
NFL kicker, you get onto the Super Bowl stage, the pressure of that is impossible. So I stick with the
The
kicker.
Bills often, the Bills had some tricky things with that, But I'm not gonna lie, CJ. I was reading through these TikTok comments, and they kind of changed my mind because I saw the stat number of the kicker getting 17 points. I was like, shoot, like that's crazy. But like, I
Yeah.
don't know, just not all of those kicks were that
Yeah.
crazy. But it is at the grand stage. Right, we've seen in the past was the Bills. They couldn't make it happen. But that's neither here or there. Well, fun to go over those comments. Always love the comments. We love both our supportive fans and our haters. Can never get enough of you. But with that, CJ, you want to take us away with the quote of the week?
Yep. I'll finish this off as always. Great quote from Sam Walton. Like we talked about Walmart earnings coming up on Thursday. Quote for you here is if we can, we'll lower the cost of living for everyone. Give the world an opportunity to see what it's like to save and have a better lifestyle and a better life for it all. Hearing that, there's times where it's hard out there. It can be tough. Things can be month to month, but you want to make sure that as you go throughout your life, you want to make sure that you've got those basic needs met. And that's something that Walmart has provided for so many people. Like we were talking about, whether it's employment, 1.6 million, or just day-to-day living through grocery stores, they've continued and always will be just a great staple company. And as you see, a quote like that from a leader really kind of just defines who they are and what they stand for. So, Tyler, great episode as always. A lot to look out for this coming week. Kind of a condensed trading week, but as always, we appreciate all of you listeners, and we look forward to catching you on next week's episode of the Sift Stack.
This material is for educational purposes only and is not intended to provide specific investment advice or recommendations. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal.